Hey, Coach, we got you.
Oh, hello. Sorry.
Hey, we got you. All right, we can fire away. Phillips.
Yeah, if Les isn't on, I'll go. Good morning. Can you take us through where you guys are at on the run defense and to have such a dominating performance yesterday? Does that speak to some kind of evolution just in how things are going and how they're learning the system?
I think what in all honesty, it's the development over time. I mean, one of the things that I've talked about we've had to do is, there's a group of guys that were here for quite some time with the previous coaches, and you have to break habits, and you have to get them to be more confident in what you're trying to do to get them to do it. And it was a little bit of a struggle, to be honest. I mean, some of our guys held on to some of the old techniques and old styles of play, and getting them to understand and trust what we're trying to teach, I think, was a big part of it. And we're still not there. I mean, we're still learning, we're still growing, we're still developing. I also say the play of the linebackers has gotten better. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was a little critical about them, and they took it to heart, I believe, and went out and did the things they needed to improve. They're still getting better. They're still growing. They're a young group. And, those things will show as we continue to play.
Is that expected for you? Did you expect this kind of trajectory over the course of the season, or are they surprising you by how well they're playing right now?
This is what you kind of hope for, is that you get to this point in the season and they're ascending, and that's the big thing, is you want to see that growth where they're going up, because it bodes well for the future, and that's the thing. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks, but we're going to come out and play hard, give our best effort, and see what happens. Because we really believe right now, and at least I do, is that the players have bought in, and they're beginning to believe in what the potential for this unit can be. What this group of guys can accomplish.
Rhiannon's not here, so David Aldridge, if you want to take hers.
Sure. Ron, it's a weird question, but I was just wondering, do you have a minimum amount of time when you drill special teams to get on the field for a scramble kick situation like you had at the end of the first half?
Yes, we do that. We talk about that. We did it a lot in training camp. We try to create those situations, and now during the regular season, I've allotted what I believe is more than enough time. I've given Nate extra time because we think it's important, and so what Nate does is during the Thursday practice, we created an extra period in between our last two to do just field goal. And he creates that hurry up situation, that hurry up attitude, where he's trying to push them to hurry and get the ball snapped within a certain amount of time.
And what I was getting is there a number of seconds on the clock? Like if it's 17 seconds, you go. If it's 14 seconds, you don't go. Is it
right? Well, what we've done is at I think at a minimum, it's somewhere between 14 and 17 seconds that we work on to hustle out there, to get themselves lined up. I mean, if you complete a long pass downfield and get into field goal position, it's going to be tough to get it in 14 seconds. But if you run the ball, or the quarterback gets sacked like ours did at that particular position, then you can hurry on because everybody's still close. It's when everybody's spread out and you got to hustle to it that there's that you worry about what the time frame is. And that's one of the things that Nate pays attention to. And I'm referring to Nate Caxer, our special teams coach.
Sure.
Go ahead, JP.
Hey, Ron, not to be a downer after such a big win, but it was almost exactly a year ago that Carolina let you go. And I just wonder if you thought about that at all this week, and if it makes you kind of everything happens for a reason sort of thing.
It does, because it's interesting that you talk about it. It was December 2nd that Carolina let me go. But what was even more interesting was yesterday, on my way to the buses after the game, I called Mr. Snyder And right away he started to congratulate me. And I stopped him and said, I want you to know that this victory came today, exactly 1 year from the first time he and I talked about the team. And he reminded me, he said, now you remember what the conversation was that we had? And I said, yes, it was about culture and changing the culture of the team. And so yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of the first time he and I talked about the team. And the majority of the conversation was about culture, about building a culture. It was interesting that it happened yesterday. And we had a good conversation about that. And it was really neat. It really was. The serendipity of it all was an amazing thing. And I thought about that during the day, and then after the game, I thought about it, and I said, that's one of the things that we need to talk about. And we did. It was a really good conversation. I know he's very happy for the players and very happy for our coaches, and it's an amazing thing that it kind of came full circle. So yeah, it's kind of neat that I've thought about those things. I thought about it on December 2nd, and I thought about it on December 7th.
That's really interesting. How far along would you say you are then into your cultural rebuild or cultural flip, whatever your goal is?
JP, we're headed in that direction. We're trending that way. There's a lot of positives to take from this game. Now we got to see how we handle this success. We really do. I mean, because again, you can take a huge step forward, but if you're not careful, you can take 2 or 3 backwards. And that's the thing that we have to be smart about as we're building and going forward. I mean, we're going to be tested. We're going to find out even more about us, because these next 2 weeks, coupled with yesterday's game, are three games that I circled and said, man, this is going to be a tough stretch. This is going to be about our character. This is about our culture and how we handle these types of situations. So I'm interested in seeing it. I really am. I'm excited about it. And I really do think this is a big step in terms of our culture and where we are as a football team.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron. 2 questions. One, do you have an update on Antonio Gibson and his toe injury? And then the second part of that is Logan Thomas. When did you guys first really take notice of him and really become intrigued by what he was doing, be it with Detroit or another team?
Okay. This was Nikki, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Nikki, just so you know, I don't talk to the trainers till I get done with this presser. Okay. It's just something I try to do. That way I don't have to I can't answer your questions and give you the right answer. So it's a way of me avoiding it. Okay. As far as Logan's, well, it's really, that's it. I mean, it's something I don't want to put out yet. It's something that we have to be careful with as far as our players and our players' health and safety as we go forward. The less our opponent knows, the better. So anyways, as far as Logan's concerned, Pete Haynard looked at him in the offseason as we were getting ready for free agency. He was on a list of names that he got, and he was the one that he circled. He was the one that he highlighted and really felt this guy was on the come. And the reason he felt that way was the guy has the size. He's got the skill set in terms of speed, quickness. He's got the smarts because he's a former quarterback. He understands the game. And when you watch him, and which we did, you feel, okay, wow, this guy just hasn't played a lot, but when he does play, he looks pretty good. Well, Pete really felt he was just scratching the surface. And so he was a guy that we targeted, felt we had to go after and try to get. And we also felt the fact that he's from the Virginia area and played at Virginia, that it would be a pretty good chance that we could get a guy like that. And lo and behold, we were able to. So it was sometime during training camp, you could see he was getting it. But each game he does something that makes you go, wow. And just feel that this guy's developing and going to be the type of tight end that we're looking for.
Was finding guys with local ties, was that a big part of your free agency strategy? Or
no, but finding guys that had local ties was a plus, because you knew that would be something that we could probably help us influence them to get here.
Hey, Ron, one of those other local guys, Chase Young, you can see the flash plays and all that. How much awareness does he play with in terms of diagnosing other plays, taking away screens and all that? Is it at a different level than most rookies?
It is. It's he is a student of the game, and he's still learning how to be a student of the game. He's learning how to watch tape. I will tell you this, though, getting him from Ohio State, you got a guy that was truly trained at his position. Their coaching staff, their defensive line coach, and I know he's got a tremendous background, has done a great job. And you can see it in the players that have come from there at that position. So you feel very strongly about that position in terms of who they are and who they're going to become. And it's interesting because, one thing that I've also noticed about Chase is also an emotional leader. He gets his teammates hyped up. He really does. Not just a good young rookie player who's going to even get better, but there's an emotional energy that he brings. And I think his teammates feed off of that as well.
And then with the linebackers, is it a matter of attacking more, or is it the matter of fitting better? What is it that's changed?
It's a combination. It's about fitting, because you got to fit where you're supposed to, but then attacking. I mean, you can get to your crease, but if you don't attack the crease, there's a difference. And I think that's the thing that our linebackers have finally realized. I shouldn't say finally, but I think our linebackers now realize is that's not just about getting to your crease, but attacking it. And by that, I mean getting downhill and forcing that block off the double team and addressing that block at the point of attack, not sitting and waiting for it to attack you. And I think that's one of the things that you start to see. I mean, we saw it yesterday with the run-throughs. I mean, John Bostic getting downhill, Kevin Pierre-Louis, Thomas Davis. But the guy that's really seems to be embracing it even more so has been Cole Holcomb, who's done a great job for us. I mean, those guys are really putting it together right now, and I'm pretty excited to watch them.
Thank you.
All righty.
Hey, Ron, good morning. Just to circle back to Logan Thomas for a second, it's one thing for Logan Thomas and J.D. McKissick to catch a lot of passes, but to do it at the level of efficiency yesterday was pretty impressive. What you think contributed to them being that efficient against that defense?
Well, first of all, if you get an opportunity to watch again, watch how many times they seem to roll their coverage towards Terry, or how many times they seem to, when they're in man, they seem to favor that side with either the whole player or the safety. And by doing that, it creates some spacing for those guys, for the other receivers to make things happen. I mean, you'd love to see Terry continue to get the good numbers, but what's going to happen is because he's so good, so dynamic. I mean, that long ball he almost caught was a heck of an effort. And that's the kind of things that people have to respect about who he is. And the more they respect him, the more opportunities are going to be created for his teammates. And that's the one thing. And Terry doesn't get frustrated about that. He understands that. And so he goes out and he relishes the challenge of creating opportunities for himself to make plays. But in doing so, he's creating those opportunities for his teammates. That's, I think, is really what's happening. Now, when you watch the way these guys practice, I know you guys don't get to, unfortunately, right now. But you would see how they work at their game. You would see the things that they do to create those opportunities to make plays. I mean, watching Logan and JD and Cam and all the young receivers that get opportunities out there, Steven and Isaiah, those are young guys, that bode well for our future.
And on a sort of a different topic, obviously you would like, I'm sure, to get off to quicker start.
Oh, I lost you. Was that Ben?
Possession, things like that. But Ben, it's also clear that you learned these slow.
Is that Ben? Can you repeat that? You cut out for a second.
Oh yeah, sure. Sorry about that. I was saying that obviously I'm sure you'd like to get off the quicker starts. You still haven't scored on the first possession, things like that. But at the same time, from that has come this resiliency that you guys seemingly understand. Hey, this game is not going to be lost right off the bat. We can come back, and you've done that time and time again. Does that sort of help kind of get the message to your team about, keep fighting?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that you can hear the guys on the sideline talk about it. Going into the locker room at 14-3, knowing we were getting the ball back, it was all about, all right, guys, hey, we get the ball, we got to go down and score, and make it a one-score game. I mean, that's the conversation they're having, and that speaks to the resilience, to their attitude, to their frame of mind coming back out on the field, which I think is huge. but to your point about, I would love to have fast starts where you're up 14-0 and you feel a little bit better, so you can get comfortable and I guess enjoy watching the game a little bit better. But as of right now, we'll take it as it comes. It seems to be working for us. So I guess it might be part of our strategy going forward.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Ron, going back to the thing you said about Dan, just kind of curious, like, what was your initial reaction when you got that call? Because it was like 5 days after you got fired. Like, were you still angry about being let go in Carolina? Like, how did you kind of mentally like prepare yourself for like talking about another job so soon?
I would say this: I wasn't angry about getting let go in Carolina. I had a great conversation with Mr. Tepper, and I understood his reasoning, and so. For me, it was more of a matter of I was disappointed that didn't get a chance to finish. I was disappointed in the way we had played more than anything else. We were 6-6 at the time, and we had just lost to the Washington football team, so that was tough. But on my exit interview, on my exit press conference, the one thing I said was I was getting back into coaching. I wasn't going to take time off. I wanted the opportunity. I was looking for an opportunity that I would feel really comfortable about. And when I got the phone call, what had happened was he had actually reached out to my agent, talked to my agent, and told my agent, he would like to talk with me. And so my agent let me know. And so when Mr. Snyder called, I wasn't surprised. I was kind of anticipating it. And the thing that I was really pleased about was the conversation was, about the football team and more so about reestablishing, rebuilding a culture. And he said, in his conversation with Joe Gibbs, Joe had told him about the things that I had done and what I had done with all the situations we had here in Carolina or there in Carolina. And it was about culture. And so that conversation was probably about a little over an hour, and I would say probably 45 minutes of it minimum was probably about culture, about rebuilding culture and doing the things that were needed, and that this was going to be a coach-centric approach if this is what you were looking for. And when we hung up, we were going to talk again, and sure enough, I believe it was the 9th that we had talked, and he encouraged me to reach out to Coach Gibbs, which I did. Got a chance to visit with Coach, but also it was also I want to say it was at the end of the week that he had asked me to come for an interview and asked me to look at his team. He sent me a bunch of he sent me the last game because I'd missed the last game they played on Sunday. So he sent it to me on disc. Or one of those thumb drives. I plugged it in my computer and watched it and broke the team down. And he asked me to look at more of it. So I started looking at more tape, and I pretty much kind of put together a little report so that when I went out to see him, I was prepared.
And when did you see him? When was that next meeting? Sorry, just.
Gosh, I need to look at a calendar, but it came at the end of the week of this. So it was the 2nd, the 7th, and then it followed into the following week. It was, let's see, got fired on the 2nd, talk on the 7th. It was the weekend of the 12th, 13th. I think we flew down on the 12th, met with him in his office. We talked football straight through till dinner, and then had dinner with our wives. And then we went back in and talked more football. We got up the next morning, had breakfast, talked all the way up until we left, had lunch, and then we flew back home after meeting.
Thanks.
This may seem like somewhat of a silly question, Ron, but the white on white jerseys are a pretty big deal for Washington fans, and this team hadn't worn them in more than a decade. So I'm just wondering how that decision was reached for the game.
I was looking for a big game. It's funny because people talk to me about it early on in the season, and I thought, wow, I love the white on white. I loved them in Carolina. We had success wearing them in Carolina, especially in the playoffs. And so when they told me about it and the little history behind it, I thought, you know what, I'm going to save them for big games. And when this opportunity came, I thought this was as perfect as it got. So we saved it. We alerted our people. We didn't tell the players. And it's funny because when they came in and saw it, you could hear the excitement in their voice too. It was kind of neat. I mean, it's interesting because a lot of things that are happening, you see the excitement, and that's great. I mean, because right now, I mean, winning helps. Trust me, and you guys know that it makes a lot of things better. Even food tastes better. So, just listening to them be excited about wearing the white jerseys and pants, and then watching them, after the game, it was, it's why you do what we do. It's exciting.
We got time for two more.
Hey, Ron, after the game, your players had some fun on social media with the song that had become the anthem for the Steelers season. And I wonder, when we talk about, culture and identity and things that you want to build here, how does swagger factor into that?
Confidence. It's about attitude. One of the things I talk to the players about every day, and I've done it ever since I've been a head coach, is their attitude, their preparation, and their effort. APE. I call it your inner ape. And I tell those guys that those are the three things that they control. I don't control it. I can try and influence, but I don't control it. Their attitude when they come into the building, their attitude when they're on the practice field, their attitude when they're playing a game. And to me, I think, it's there's a fine line. And one of the things that I talked about after the game, and I talked about it when we give thanks, is that I ask that we learn to be humble. But there is a fine line, and I can appreciate their excitement and how much they enjoyed it. And again, to me, it's one of those things that you can have fun, you can enjoy it, and you can keep your personality, but do it within a certain framework. And that's one of the things we talked about. And we'll have a little lesson today about humility. I've got it all set on the PowerPoint. And because again, we just because we won this game, doesn't mean we're going to show up somewhere else and win automatically. We've got to go out and earn it, and that'll be one thing that we will talk about.
Ron, you could see.
Hold on to the follow up.
Yeah, Ron, you could see that there was great energy in pregame, and just to get your thoughts, how awkward was it to be playing at 5:00 on a Monday?
Honestly. It really felt like a Sunday afternoon. I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to stick to schedules, and we're trying to make everything feel like like normal. So we're even though we've got all these COVID restrictions and stuff, we had a good week of preparation. We're changing the way we're doing it. We're using a late season schedule, and so. The guys, the idea is to preserve their bodies as much as possible, to emphasize the mental aspect of the game, the importance of getting everything right in terms of the walkthroughs, the installations, and then the practices. The meetings are mostly on Zoom. They're all on Zoom. So we're trying to get our messages across that. And then coming to the stadium, and again, trying to just keep everything as normal as possible to the scheduling, I think has really helped our guys. The energy level was high. The energy in that locker room during warmups was excellent, and on the sideline. I don't think we ever felt being down 14-0 like as if there was despair, that, oh, here we go again. It was about, okay, let's go, let's get it going. And then when we got that 2-minute drill, it worked out good. We looked at it, Pittsburgh had the ball, used the timeouts to try and preserve as much time to give Alex a chance to get us into field goal position at minimum. And we did. And you could feel the energy. I mean, we went into that locker room and guys were talking, hey, 14-3, we get the ball to open up the second half. We could score guys and make it a 1-score game. I mean, that's what they were talking about. And, the coaches brought that up. Scotty brought it up to the offense. Jack talked about shutting them down to give us a chance to score and put points on the board. I mean, the whole attitude was the right attitude you're looking for, and it's really kind of paid off for our guys.
All right, last one.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Ron. Chris, you want to go? That's fine.
Well, we got two more. We can do these last two.
All right.
You
Go
go.
ahead, last two.
All right. I'll go here. Thanks, Heather. Ron, you mentioned the kind of deep shot to Terry there at the end of the first half. And then obviously you guys had some success with the intermediate to a couple of deep balls in the second half. How much does that change how a defense then has to play you when you show that, when you show that you're willing to do that, especially if some of the horizontal or close stuff isn't working? How much does that change from a defensive perspective?
It's huge, especially when you can threaten them, and now all of a sudden they're thinking, okay, we've got to keep two guys deep. We got to keep a guy deep, and we got to get a guy that's got to run with. So now what happens is you're creating that uncertainty in their minds. So now the safety is a little bit deeper. Now the linebackers are dropping a little bit more deeper, which is going to open up the underneath. Now all of a sudden you're hitting the underneath routes with the threat of going deep. It opens up the intermediate. We had a little success running, so that helped us with some of our RPO stuff, some of our decisions on some of our screens that we threw. And when you look at the one that Cam converted for the first down, it was one of those things that, we had taken some shots, we had run the ball, and so all of a sudden we whip out the tunnel screen outside, and he converted it. And part of it was because they are dropping, a little deeper, and gave us an opportunity to get those blockers out in front, and he, and did a heck of a job running the ball after that. And so, it's all working together. But if you don't take the deep shots, they'll never honor them. But if you take them, which I think we took 4. I think it was 4. 'Cause I think we took 2 to Terry, 1 to Cam, and 1 to Logan, I think it was. But anyways, when you do that, it keeps that safety a little bit deeper, or safeties when they're in too high, a little bit deeper.
Thank you, Ron.
All right, Heather.
Thank you. So obviously, you had this speech with after the game with the underdog, and it's funny, on our morning meeting with our news department, our digital team, they said that was one of the top things that people were looking at. So just, I guess, how easy is it, or to buy in? Certainly, I guess anyone would be the underdog against an undefeated team, but you also have these guys coming from like power programs and highly rated. So how do you get those guys to buy into that underdog attitude? And can you take us behind that speech after the game a little bit?
Because they want to win, and they're used to winning. And so to feel like, in my opinion, to get them to buy into being the underdog is they're being disrespected. And that's one of the things that I think these guys resonates with these guys, is that these guys are used to being respected. These guys want to be respected. They don't want to be, a second thought. And one of the things that, that I think really resonates with these guys is, the underdog attitude is one of not knowing you don't have a chance, not knowing you're not supposed to win. And that was what we kind of did. And I don't know if you saw it, but there was a hype video that our digital people put together for us, and we used it. I showed it to the team on my Sunday night meeting, and it was voiced over by London Fletcher. It was actually, I'm gonna brag a little bit. It was put together by my daughter Courtney, who's part of our digital team, and she had showed it to me, and I thought, oh wow, this is perfect. So I took it and I showed it to our players, and they loved it. And then what I did was I had Malcolm Black, and our director of player development, text message that again on Monday around 1 or 2 o'clock, just before we went to the stadium. I wanted those, so we sent it to the players. So I hope a lot of them looked at it going to the stadium. And so just trying to reinforce guys, that, hey, that we are in this situation underdog. And one of the lines that I used with the guys was I told them, as the underdog, I prepare a victory speech. And so what I did was I had wrote on one of my flashcards that I use that I take out with me in case something happens. I'll write it down. I jotted down underdogs win. So when the game was over, I went into the locker room and I pulled out the flip card. I said, well, let me read my victory speech to you guys. Underdogs win. And I told the guys, I said, just understand this when we talk about it. We control our destiny. We have to pay attention and focus in on us, not what's happening outside of us, but what happens with us. And that's kind of the approach we're going to use because, going forward, we can't count on anybody else winning or losing. We have to count on us winning. And I think that's the thing that these guys are beginning to understand.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Ron.
All righty.
Thank you so much, Ron.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.